Hi, I want to go back and talk about the same concepts I've been talking about in other videos. uh, Zero marginal cost society, and also I had another video, manufacturing revolutions. There were some other ones, but a lot of these ideas revolve around the change, the technological changes or singularity that we have already entered, or we entered it some times ago, but we are not cognizant of it. So our reactions to events are very frantic and very worried. Uh, there has been a very strong deflationary trends in society worldwide, and uh, they happen very suddenly. Some of them happen gradually, some of them happen very suddenly, and they completely change the price structure. And it is really a huge deflationary collapse, really. uh, the only way that I can really start modeling these ideas is to just go and talk about some examples in different industries, and try to kind of get a more general view. But uh, well, I'll start with industry that I had been in for some time, the taxi business, and how it basically got decimated, or very much reduced in size by Uber-like services. There's a lot of them now, Lyft, Uber, and there's many companies that have their own little app, and then they can sell the same service much cheaper and much better, and that's deflation. That's transportation sector is is a huge part of the economy. Transportation of people and transportation of goods, and when a deflationary collapse happened, like in the past, to it, well, that's a huge trend. That's a collapse. It didn't even happen over a period of time. It just happened within like a year or two, and uh, we need to take notice of it. Well, I watched Kaiser Report, and Stacy and Max, they're both advocating the philosophy that there's going to be extreme inflation. This is a fine philosophy, and there's a lot of money printing going on. I'm not trying to discredit them. Actually, I'm a fan, and I watch their show all the time. Uh, I'm just looking at a corner of this argument, and also as a philosopher and a mathematician, I am very humble, and I do not claim that I have all the answers. Even the best mathematicians, that they construct models, economic models, or models of how a machine works, how a process works in manufacturing. They all know that this is nothing but a model. It could have many flaws. In fact, many models have many flaws. The designer, or the person who wrote down this code uh, could have um, uh, could have missed many inputs, many trends, and the model could be incomplete, or it could also not be incomplete, but have a lot of flaws. It could predict future to some extent, and then it break down at a later date, or for uh, for for later or different kind of input. For example, there could be an economic model, and this economic model would collapse or fall apart if the velocity of money changed drastically, like became much faster or much slower, or there were other reasons the velocity of money increased, but then again, concurrently with the inflation, there were also technologically induced deflation that offset it in a very strange way. Uh, so I'm humble, and I do not claim that I have all the answers. I really don't need to. I could make a model and I tell you, hey, this will work like this and that for a while, but then it might fall apart. Uh, for example, one way that the deflationary view of the future might fall apart is that the U.S. Fed, the central bank, would just go berserk and print so much that it doesn't matter how much deflation there is, that there will be inflation or there will be extreme inflation because the people who were managing the monetary supply, they just got totally drunk. They were, they were asleep at the helm, or I don't know. So who's to say that this model is perfect? I'm not. But another thing that is very interesting is that many people that predict the economic future, they talk as if United States or its economy is like a closed system, and it's like well, I talked about this in another video I had, why economic models fall apart or economic predictions fall apart. Well, I thought it was a very nice video. I had it on YouTube, and my viewership totally sucked. It was a complete bomb. But I just sometimes I don't understand why a video attracts a lot of viewers, and I wonder about it. For example, I had this video, and it got more hits than my usual videos. My usual videos in YouTube, they totally are a disaster. But this one, it was called Mars, Martians, and Yankee Go Home. And I thought that a lot of Muslims, a lot of Arabs, they kind of like that video because in many of these countries there's a kind of shadow kind of pro-Western governments are in charge, and many people are like liberals, but these philosophies are really bad for these places. Like if you are a liberal in Iran or in Palestine or in Lebanon, and then all the stuff that you're pursuing, and they all benefit the countries like France and United States, then I don't know what kind of benefit you are going to get out of it as a Lebanese or as a Palestinian. But the thing that attracted many of these people to my video, Mars, Martians, and Yankee Go Home, is that in every country or every place there is a certain group of people live there, and it's very natural to, when you're born and raised in a place, to love your own place, to your own country. And the picture that I got, and I put it on my video, it shows that you could be a very strange kind of creature. You could be a Martian, and you still have nationalist sentiments, that you love your own place, you love your own planet, and you don't want it invaded or wrecked or modified. And it was just it's kind of flies in the face of many liberal Iranians or Arab, but but the reasons the video becomes popular and other ones that are much better quality is a really interesting topic to me. I sometimes sit down and think, hey, this video was great. I'm the author. I'm the guy, the researcher. I came up with this very nice original thinking, and how come nobody else likes it? Anyhow, so I mean, the sometimes very good models don't work, and very well thought of uh, conclusions that you might arrive from a Austrian school of economics will just prove to be wrong. And in fact, Max Kaiser and Stacy Herbert have been wrong about predictions about the bond market or about prices. Well, the Fed is saying that the prices are, and the inflation with them is transitory, and even though this is sounds like a very stupid prediction, and they are also very drunk with their own money printing. But hey, I think the models that uh, some economists are using, the Austrian model of assuming that there is a closed system in the United States, it might be flawed, and that's why their predictions might work at some lengths of time. It might fail. The economy of the United States is not a closed system. It is a very much a worldwide uh, system that's connected to many other countries, especially connected to China, to Asian countries. And there are drastic changes technologically and in labor that are happening in this open system that will affect it very dramatically. Well, I'm gonna go through the list. There is several. I think we already have entered a zero marginal cost society, also a certain kind of technological singularity. We need to take these very strong deflationary components of economy into effect in any models that we construct. But I'm not even talking about the deflationary collapses that happen in certain sectors, like in transportation. Uh, that those are very sudden collapse in price structures. That, for example, transportation company might be offering customers uh, taxi service or very high quality taxi service in a late model car at like a half of established taxi company rates. I mean, that's a sudden collapse. It also did result in a decimation of a huge sector. I mean, in many countries, taxi business is a very important part of the economy. In many countries, their economy is based on tourism. So what happens if there is a significant collapse in a sector? And this is not limited to the taxi business. The technology with apps that a lot of people have on their Androids, it affects things. For example, I saw an app, Instacart, that many major chains are signed up with. You could go on Instacart, you could go shop online in Walmart. It's just like you sat in your car and went into Walmart, uh, purchased a lot of things, and many people purchase more than $50 when they shop Walmart. So then at the end, you could hit the Instacart. I have everything delivered to you. Like somebody will go pick up all the items. That's labor. That's a lot of labor. So if you wanted to do that labor, you would have to go into the store. You would have to pay for gasoline, for the car, and you'd have to spend I don't know, a couple of hours, right? That's $20, $30 worth of just labor, and then taking the gasoline into account, that's another $5. Then uh, take the depreciation on the car, on the component of risk that you could get hit in the road, and then, well, that whole thing disappeared. That's a deflationary collapse. Somebody else did all that, and then when they show up with all your stuff that you already paid for with credit card online, then you just give them $5 extra tip, which you don't even have to. Is that a very strong deflationary collapse? I think so. And then this is not limited to Walmart and delivery of stuff. Uh, this deflationary collapse, for example, can easily happen in military services. I've seen many robots. I was watching two, three robot manufacturing companies, especially Boston Dynamics. The robot was doing somersaults, tossing big crates of stuff to each other. I used to, when I was in college, used to do programming. I've even forgotten the name of that programming, to make imaging and processing for robotics. Then what happens to military service if a company comes up with a robot that can do everything a soldier can do? Plus, it doesn't matter if they get killed. It doesn't matter the cost, because the cost is also collapsing to make all these soldiers. The cost of transportation of soldiers to field. Um, I watch videos in from Iranian government. They show all these drones that some of them can fly from Iran all the way to Washington D.C. Did the deflationary collapse in the cost of fighter planes that can go across the world? Yeah, I think so. I think that's a deflationary collapse in price. Don't you think so? Uh, I could look at many sectors, and I could say that deflationary collapse has happened to a large extent, is happening now, either gradually at very large volume, or happening in a like sudden collapse style. And what I had a video was called technologically induced deflation, and I just have to make a few other videos about that, because I think that's a very significant kind of trend. The other thing that is very significant, I could mention with the taxi company model. When I was working in the taxi business, the, we had to go buy only some cars. They can take the kind of punishment a taxi company will exact on a car. This is like only two model car can that can take such punishment. One was a Crown Victoria, which we bought from many police agencies or FBI or state. This car it can take this kind of punishment. And then the other one was that, which is exactly the same car. It has this exact same chassis. It's called uh, not Continental, but Lincoln Town Car. These are exactly the same car. But you know, the only kind of car that you could take, you could drive it like 400, 500, 800 miles a week, and then have only occasionally, like every month or two, have oil change. The parts are cheap, that you can continuously keep the car running. It survives past 200,000 miles. It can go up to 300,000. Some taxis had 400,000 miles on it. It only you have to maintain it. Okay, so the business was also dependent on a certain technology, old technology, and these cars that were suitable for this business, they were all 8 cylinders, and they eat a tremendous amount of gasoline. Then all these factors enter into the price that we had to charge the customer, and this price was a pretty high price. It was 2.75 or $3 per mile. That's $3 per mile, which means that if you were in South Orange County and a taxi or a transportation company did not charge you retail and gave you a very good price, and you wanted to go to LAX, which is about 40 miles away, then you were stuck at the price that was $120. Well, if somebody gave you a price that was $100, they they they, they gave you a cheap price. But we are not even talking about the well, the driver, the sorry ass driver, he don't get paid per hourly labor, and also get no benefits. Everything was like based on tips and cut of the price. But say out of the $120 on a trip to LAX, $60 remained for the taxi company. They were very close to losses, because when the taxi went from South Orange County to LAX and came back, the transportation cost, the gasoline, was double for the driver, for the taxi company. So in that business model, the cost structure was like a bitch. Many companies were operating close to red. In fact, many companies constantly go out of business and come back into the business because there was demand. But then when Uber came in, and Uber, the app, hires drivers with late model cars. They have their own insurance. On the taxi business, you had to buy commercial insurance, which is much more expensive. You also have to screen the drivers and make sure that they're very good people, very good driver, so that your commercial insurance would be cheap and reasonable, so you wouldn't go out of business. But the Uber change, all the drivers, they had to buy their own insurance. Well, the pricing structure collapsed. It was a collapse. It wasn't something very nice. It collapsed from $3 a mile to $1 a mile, a third of what it was. So many taxi companies went out of business. Don't you think this happened and can happen over and over with many other sectors? If it happened to a sector that's transportation sector, then what if it happened to a military sector, or it happened to aviation sector? I tell you how this can happen to aviation sector, even to the transportation of passengers. Imagine that some company, in fact, some company has done it in Iran. They constructed these huge drones that they transport, injured soldiers. They transport supplies. This is a drone. There is no pilot. You simply, the drone comes in to the airport or the field that it can sit in, and, and many of these such fields, they are not airports. They're just a piece of flat land or prairie. And imagine all the customers can come in, take off and land elsewhere. Okay, so where did the deflation in price happen? It happened in cost of the pilot. It happened to all the safety precautions that have to be taken, because uh, the passenger planes have to be maintained in a certain way, but drones, they have a much more reliable service history of taking off and landing, where most of the accidents happen. I'm not going to go into this subject, but I think that what has been happening is that there has been series of very sharp, very very hard uh, collapses in price in many sectors, in transportation, uh, in electronics, in military sector, in robotics, and it's like if you are looking at a model, okay, it's not a continuous change, but there is all the sudden sharp drops in activity or in prices. Like the whole curve is like taking a huge dip and coming up again. It's coming up for other reasons, for money printing, for mismanagement. But imagine you're going on a curve or on a price curve, and every point, every little while, there's like huge drop, and then it comes slowly up again, and then it goes a little bit, and then whoomp, another huge drop. Uh, uh, guess uh, guess why we are not having inflation? I talked about these ideas in another video. Was called "Why Inflation Genie May Not," and I don't know why this thing decided to pause, but on that video, I talked about these same ideas with technologically induced deflation. But this is just the beginning of this discussion, because outside of United States, which is very much integrated economically with United States, there is a tremendous pools of labor. There's huge pools of labor in Indonesia, in Mexico, in South America, in Asian countries, in Central Asian countries, even in Asia. They all can manufacture stuff, and they all have been manufacturing things. You go buy a t-shirt and you see written on it Sri Lanka or Pakistan. This is labor has a tremendous impact on the price of goods. Well, I, I talked to my brother, and he's like diabetic like me, and you know, when the diabetics, they get old, they like their 40s and 50s, they end up with either macular degeneration in their eyes, or they end up with detached retinas and stuff. And these are stuff that happens in the eye, one of the most complex parts of the body. And I had many surgeries like that, and actually, I lost one of my eyes, but my brother is like a couple of years younger than me. He has a more serene life, and these things that started happening to him when he was like a year ago. It was like he was 56, 57. Well, this is still happened to me like when I was in my 45 or so, because I have a more stressful life, and but then he was going through all these hospitals, and and he was telling me about the prices of surgeries. Well, over there they have some kind of social medicine too. The government gives you a blue book, but you have to pay. You have to co-pay some of the, and I end up co-paying for him for his surgeries. Actually, he had like uh, 3, 4 surgeries. Uh, it was kind of like a joke because he had to pay $350, $300, something like that was his copay for like major surgery on the eye, reattaching the retina or stuff like that on each eye. And then if he had these surgeries in the United States, I don't know how much would that they have cost. Maybe like $80,000, and the copay would be like $20,000, something like that. Or if you didn't have insurance, like many Americans don't have, it would be like $100,000. But that's the deflation that's in prices of surgeon, hospital, all these very extremely sophisticated medications and equipment that they had to manufacture from scratch themselves or upgrade from existing equipment that was left by the Americans in the 70s and 80s, and there was all these sanctions. Imagine how much technological innovation and upgrades there have been all these years, and the price, how much it has collapsed. That that when I was paying for it, it was such low levels, and if we didn't have this cheap labor in Iran, if we didn't have all these innovations in technological advancement or upgrades, or what would the price be in the time that it came to pay for it, have that surgery? Well, many people, they don't look at these things and they just go on. They're seduced by what's going on in the United States, and I don't know. I just don't think I really need to beef up my arguments, but yet there is yet a third very strong deflationary component, and that's that many robots are entering into industries. Robots that they are not simple robots; they are very sophisticated robots. In fact, I was studying some documents from Department of Defense that back in the 70s and 80s they had made robots that the robot could conduct or make all the surgeries, even internal surgeries in the human being. But the Department of Defense decided that, hey, we don't want to bring these robots on because it will make many industries that people go work in obsolete. And then what we do with all these unemployed people? But there's a lot of technology that's hiding in the desk drawers in Department of Defense. A lot of research that if they ever entered into the economy, I don't know what will happen to even the remaining jobs. But this component of robotics gradually coming in and doing a complete makeover of many industries, even industries that you would not think. Say, for example, I think there will be robots that become companion for elderly or disabled. They can do many of the functions that these people depend on. Well, uh, the last thing, and I don't know how this has been happening, is because when I was doing videos on quantum physics and on manufacturing or on singularity, there is a question in the back of my mind, in the back of the mind of the, say, physicist or a researcher. I ask myself, and I often have get great insight. Is who the fuck would want to know about this? You need a great mind. You need to have studied many fields. You need to have IQs over like me, 153, to even grasp these concepts or ideas. Okay, and you see really good analysts out there that they get it wrong. Okay, so this question in my mind, who the fuck would watch this video and try to understand? But my answer have come to me because of the YouTube or internet. There is a tremendous access, and many people do study these very arcane, very sophisticated fields that you need a couple of PhDs to understand. I put out video on physics of Mandela effect. You need very good knowledge of quantum physics to understand this video. I got still got a lot of hits. To me, that's a huge surprise. So I have some hopes of even this video getting an audience. Well, thank you very much. I'm probably gonna convert this video and put it on my YouTube channel, but on YouTube probably is gonna flop. Thank you very much.